The next part to solving inequalities will be the multi-steps. We're going to solve multi-step inequalities the same way we solved multi-step equations. So let's get started. In our first problem, we'll start by subtracting 9 on both sides. Go ahead and start the problem, and let's see how you did. By subtracting 9, we'll get 4x is greater than 12. Lastly, we'll divide by 4. We see that x is equal to all real numbers that are greater than 3. On to our second problem. Again, we notice our variable is on the right, so at the end we're going to interchange to put it on the left. We'll start by subtracting 5 on both sides. That will give me negative 9 is less than negative 3n. We're going to divide by a negative 3. When we divide by negative 3, remember we'll reverse our inequality, so that's going to give us 3 is greater than n. And at the very end of this, we need to do the interchange and put our variable first, so n is less than 3. On to our next problem. Let's go ahead and add 7 to both sides. Negative 6x is less than or equal to 24. Divide by a negative. As soon as I say divide by a negative, that should put up a red flag to you that you should then reverse the direction of your inequality, and we'll get x is greater than or equal to negative 4. I notice the variable is on the right, so then that tells me something at the end. I'm going to first subtract 30. That gives me 20 is greater than 8/10 times x. Let's divide both sides by 8/10. And then we're going to see that we will get 25 is greater than x. So then we must write x is less than 25. Again, these were just two inverse operations. What happens if there are parentheses or some combining of like terms? Here we see parentheses, so we're going to distribute first. 3 times t minus 3 minus 4t is greater than or equal to negative 5. Now you do see some like terms there, so go ahead and combine your like terms. And when we do that, we'll get a negative t minus 3 is greater than or equal to negative 5. Let's add 3 to both sides, and we'll have negative t is greater than or equal to negative 2. But again, we don't want to leave this negative here, so we're going to divide both sides by negative 1, and we'll get t is less than or equal to 2. In the next problem, we come across variables on both sides, and we always know that if there's nothing to simplify, the first step is to collect your variables to one side. Let's subtract 3n on both sides. 3n minus 1 is greater than 8. Let's add 1 and then divide by 3. So again, we're not doing anything different than what we did in regards to isolating the variable. The only difference is that when we're multiplying or dividing by a negative, we're reversing the direction of our inequality. Remember, we are solving inequalities, so do not change it to an equation. Do not lose the equal to part if it has one, and always watch the direction of your inequality. Let's continue with just a couple more. Now, before I move anything, I notice that there is some like terms on the right, so I'm going to have 6m minus 5 is greater than, I'll combine and I'll get 6m plus 7. Variables on both sides, they need to be collected to one side. They cancel on the left and cancel on the right. -5 is greater than 7. Now that's a false statement, and it's never ever going to be true, so there is no solution for this inequality. And again, we came upon that same situation in equations. Looks like we've got another multi-step here with a distribution to start us off with. So we'll just start off by multiplying by 2. That's going to give me 10 minus 8a. Variables on both sides, let's collect them to one side. The variables cancel out on the left and the right. And this says that 10 is greater than or equal to 10, which is always true. So then this is going to be infinite solutions, or x is equal to all real numbers. So you see that all we're doing is extending what we know how to do about isolating variables, and again we're taking this to the next step, which is the inequalities. Next lesson, we move on to talking about, well, actually that's the halfway point of the chapter already. In our next one, we're going to be changing gears a little bit and talking about sets and set notation. See you in class.